something.
We have a board meeting tonight.
Oh, that's right. All right. I call this meeting of the New York City Schools to order. The Baptist Church should be right on time. That is New York City at 6:35 on Monday, March the 9th. Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Blind?
Here.
Mr. Blowers?
Here.
Ms. Stanton?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
And Mr. Carr?
Here. Mr. Lionel, please.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First, I see we have a recognition.
Yes, Mr. Bowman, you want to step up here? A young lady coming up tonight that's got some exciting news today, and we'll share that with us. But Mr. Bowman, if you'd like to.
Yep, sure. Have with me this evening Cassidy Chaddock. She is a senior at Newark High School. She is a 4-year member of the junior ROTC program, and she just received a scholarship into the ROTC program. So I want to read a little bit about some of the things she does at Newark High School. Like I said, 4 years in junior ROTC, current public affairs officer, 4-year varsity shooter on the rifle team, secretary of Key Club, 4 years cross country, 3 years swimming, 2 years track, and is a member of National Honor Society. And today she got some exciting news, and I'll let you share that.
I got accepted to the Citadel for the 4-year Army ROTC scholarship. So I'll be studying nursing for next year.
This is probably need for nursing students, I'm sure, nurses, so excellent. Thank you.
Any
Congratulations.
questions for Chastity?
What's she do in her spare time?
I work at the Y, so I'm
Spare time.
Yeah.
Spare time. You think you're going to like it in the Carolinas? That's a question.
I don't know, we'll see. I hope so.
It's free, right?
Yes, it is.
So she'll
It's
love
free?
it.
She'll love it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's in Charleston, right? Is
Yeah,
that
South
Charleston?
Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's a Army ROTC. So you're gonna trade your blue for green?
Yes.
It's free, Warren.
Yeah.
It's all good. Congratulations. That is awesome.
We're very proud of you, Cass.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Bowman, if you could stay up here, please. Mr. Coble, you want to come on up? Dr. Scott. So last month I got an email from the Ohio School Counselors Association recognizing Mr. Coble for, you're a board member there, correct, Scott?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm the secretary on the hospital board.
For his work on the board and his outstanding work at the Newark City Schools. And they had pointed out in their letter to me that, you know, oftentimes a school counselor goes unnoticed, and that might be true, but Scott, you do not go unnoticed in our school district. We all recognize everything you do for our children and their families. And so I want to bring you in here and thank you and recognize you for your efforts with our students. And Tom or Scott, why don't you share with the board everything you're involved in?
Well, first off, I'd just like to thank the board and Mr. Youth. You've given me a lot of support the past several years, and Mr. Bowman, the leadership of high school is tremendous, and some of the things we've done with the C's team, I think it really empowered me, not only me, but other school counselors and social workers and people like that to really do positive things for our kids. Oh gosh, things I'm involved with. I'm a Key Club advisor, and so I get to work with tremendous students like Cassidy and other student leaders that really do a lot of good in the community and in the school. As school counselor and curricular chair for the department, help to oversee freshman focus day, our 8th grade visit days, started a signing day for our seniors a couple years ago. But really, more so than just the programs, it's really the day-to-day interactions with students that I think is most important. So that's where I really try to do my best work.
And
I'd say there's not a week that goes by that he comes in, he'll shut my office door, and I'm like, oh, here we go. He'll sit down, he's like, Bowman, I've got an idea. So that's usually once a week how we, at least how we start things. But he does a great job with the counseling program. We meet under his guidance, once a week, and work with all the counselors and some of those support folks to help our kids. And Scott does a great job with that, and I'd be lost without him at the high school, I'll be honest with you.
And I'm going to point out that, a few years back, we took a team and visited a freshman focus transition program. Big school, spent a lot of money on this, and we debriefed kind of after our visit and talked about we'll do it the Newark way. And I remember saying, let's get Scott Coble involved in this. And Scott has been the lead on that program for us and has taken it from nothing. We did nothing really other than having a night for parents and students to come in, an orientation type of thing, into a wonderful, and it gets better every year. And Scott's empowered our students, student leaders, and Scott, so I want to thank you for grabbing that, because that is an award-winning program right now under your leadership. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
I'd like to add that I see a lot on Twitter with Scott, a lot of evenings and weekends with the Key Club, whether it's at the Buckeye Thon over to Ohio State or different activities. But also, I see daily Scott putting out their messages of inspiration to students, and then also tweeting as an advocate for school counselors and for students in the state and nationwide. So a lot of work there and a lot of research that Scott does promoting and advocating for students. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Mrs. Newcomb.
Fantastic. Communication from the floor. If there's anyone who would like to share for up to 5 minutes, come forward, state your name, address, and begin to share. I see no one. We'll move on with our treasurer's recommendations, please.
This evening, we have 4 recommendations. Approval of board meeting minutes for February 3rd, 2020 regular meeting, February 10th, 2020 special meeting, February 17th, 2020 special meeting. The second one is approval of January and February 2020 financial statements and payment to vendors. We reviewed the financials with the finance committee prior to this meeting, or the meeting that we had before, and we all seems to be in target with revenues, expenditures, and cash balance for the fiscal year so far. The third item is the approval of 2020 supplemental temporary appropriations resolution, and the last item is the approval to pay invoice to data serve for $100,193.84, and this is for the data breach that we had in last year. It's all the work they did for us to recover all the information that we needed to. And that's all I have, please.
Second. Mike.
Okay. Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Blowers?
Yes.
Ms. Nickam?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
And Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Ute.
Okay, under retirements and resignations, Jeff Buchanan, who was a former football coach, head football coach in our district, is going to retire as a physical education at Wilson. So we appreciate Jeff's work in our district. Bill Marlowe will be retiring from the Spanish teacher at the high school. You see Ronnie Boyer here as a parent mentor. Ronnie's going to be our new wellness coordinator with our wellness funds here, and she's fantastic and going to do a tremendous job in there. Jackie Cady is a behavior specialist. Kathy Holton, who is our current courier in there, will be retiring at the end of June. And a big hit for my office, Gloria Wilson, after 20-some years in the district here and 35 overall in education, will be retiring. And you you folks know how I feel about Gloria and the district feels about Gloria. She's kind of the go-to person here with many staff members, and I'll tell you, she just work ethic where she eats lunch at her desk every day pretty much, unless it's nice, she'll sit outside, but keep telling her, go relax or whatever, but that woman works from 7:30 to 4:30 and nonstop. And Gloria's worked in a lot of different departments, so she's brought a little bit of everything, which is going to be very hard to replace. And there's just absolutely no way that, I remember the first day I walked in here, she hopped right on, just led me by the hand, and it's very helpful. So we're excited for Gloria that she's going to get a chance to do a little bit more traveling, and wish Gloria well. We're going to miss her. We have some agenda through there, so let's just go ahead and say items 1 through 7 under A.
Okay. Ending here with the substitute. So superintendent recommendations, 1 through 7. Motion.
So moved.
Thanks, Mike.
Second.
Thank you, Bev. Second. Any questions? Did I vote no on Gloria? I know she'd be mad at us.
Yeah. I didn't want her to put herself on the list, to be honest with you.
What's that?
I told her not to put herself on the paper, but she did anyway. Yeah, she runs the office. She put it on.
Tremendous. All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blowers?
Yes.
Ms. Nickam?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
And Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Students and curriculum, we have our agreements with other schools, other school districts to provide special education services in Heath and Mansfield City. Again, most of the time, those are foster place students. Approval of NDA graduates. We have 3 students graduating this month from NDA. Public announcement regarding Title I funds. The Newark City Schools will be soon planning for Title I monies for the 2020-2021 school year. These are federal funds used to support the education of economically disadvantaged students attending the Newark City Schools. Each year, the district collects input from parents, students, staff, and community members regarding the expenditure of these monies. If you have any ideas regarding the use of these funds, please send comments, requests to Tara Boyer via electronic email at tboyer@newarkschools.us or by phone 740-670-7050. Approval of out-of-state field trips. Call your attention to the choir next year going to Chicago in January, and the band going to Chicago in March. These are trips that will not miss school time. And then the French classes 11-12 going to France. We hope that all this mess is over. High school Spanish to Peru. Tentative date at the end of March there. So, item D, approval of foreign exchange students. A young man from Mexico. His family is Edgar and Amber Chisholm. We have some gifts, monetary from Tim and Susan Lehman of $500 to the Cheryl Lehman Scholarship, and monetary from National Trail Raceway for over $2,000 to the JROTC program, so we appreciate that. Also under business, under D, approval of a resolution with LACA, become a call. That information was sent to you. And so items B, C, and D.
Items B, C, and D, do I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thanks, Warren. That will be first, Warren will be second, and all will be well.
That's right.
Okay.
Ms.
Any
Nickam?
questions?
Oh, sorry.
All right. Good.
Ms. Nickam?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Blowers?
Yes.
And Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Let's hope to adopt board policies. Does not get much more exciting than this, folks. Hang on to your hats. As recommended, the Board of Education announced its intent to adopt the following policies as shown in the appendix, and the announcement being made that these policies will be available to the board, staff, and the public for inspection in the office of the superintendent of schools from March 10th, 2020 through April 13th, 2020. 0165.1 regular meetings, 1422 non-discrimination of equal employment opportunity. I swear, Warren, when you were president, there were like 6 of these the whole year. It is recommended the Board of Education adopt the Board of Education policies listed below as shown in the appendix and as announced at the February 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Board of Education. Yeah, take a break. 0100 social media definitions. 0131 legislative. 0141.2 conflict of interest. 0164 notice of meetings. 0165.2 special meetings. 0165.3 recess and adjournment. 0166 executive sessions. 0168 minutes. 0169.1 the public participation at the board meeting. 1240.01 non-reemployment of the superintendent. 1310 employment of the treasurer. 1340 non-reemployment of the treasurer. 1520 the employment of administrators. 1530 the evaluation of principals and other administrators. 1541 termination and resignation. 1662 anti-harassment. All right.
And I want you guys to know that when we reviewed those, we had a ball.
I'm sure you did. Only you can, yeah. Legislative liaison report.
I don't have anything, but I do have a question about the ed choice. Have we heard anything other than the rally?
It's been pretty quiet, so the rally next Wednesday, the 18th. Meet there at 3 o'clock, program at 4. Okay, so we'll, who all is attending, I think? Anybody? Wednesday. I know myself and several administrators, teachers. I think some of the union folks are. Denise, you got a group going?
Yeah, we have some teachers that are gonna go. Angie's gonna go and Allie's gonna go.
Yeah. So we have a
I'll
group.
get back with you.
Yeah, get back with me if you want to go and meet down there.
Board discussion.
We need to have
You
moved.
have to vote on those? Okay. All right, can I get a motion for Board of Education reports A and B?
So moved.
Thank you. Questions? Could you read the roll?
Mr. Blowers?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Ms. Nichol?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
And Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Motion carried.
No discussion? Okay, well, we would like to discuss the easement at the Evans Athletic Complex. So, Mr. Mayor, I know you came to present or to share or be a part of
Yes.
the discussion. I know
Yeah, thank you. Certainly, we had this discussion last month and appreciated tabling that motion. And so we went back and we kind of studied it and reviewed it. As you know, we had a meeting with Mark and Superintendent Ute and a couple board members and kind of went into some discussions about some concerns. We've tweaked it a little bit. And so this evening, I think Brian has got some, we bring pictures for the agenda. I'm just kind of joking, as you say. It was a little, agendas can be dry at times, we bring pictures. But Brian will go over it. Yeah, at the end of the day, I always look at my staff pretty much, and as being an engineer for more than 25 years in the city of Newark, and we've got a nice young man that does all traffic studies in the town, and really puts a lot of work into things, has worked up a rendering that also shows potential parking lot layout for you in parking spaces. Obviously, no obligation to that, but what you could, how you could utilize that space and how we could work traffic flow in and out. So I'll go and let Brian discuss it.
Yeah, you've all, I think you've all gotten copies of the drawings. Have you all seen that? Okay. So, yeah, we took some of the comments from the last meeting and went back. The first thing we did was we moved that driveway a little bit to the north, with the swing to the north. As we talked about, it gives a little bit more stacking room in the turn lane, going north on Evans Boulevard there. So that adds a little more, a few more cars to get in there. We added a concrete divider into that concrete driveway approach to keep a left turn from occurring coming out of that. So you would, out of the new driveway, you would make a right turn down to Evans. If you chose to go north, you'd come down through the roundabout and then head back north. On the new driveway inbound, there's just some changes to the striping. You lose a couple of parking spaces there, probably about 5 to 7 spaces. Just what we were estimating there. But as you would come into the parking lot, you'd make a right turn, circulate up to the building or wherever. Would be glad to work with Mark on any changes to the parking layout on the northern part of the parking lot. We just kind of need to know what you guys want to see more or less. It's kind of, there's a lot of variation that could go on up there, but anyhow, you'd circulate through the lot, come southbound, and then back to the east onto the new driveway, and then again south. So I guess the planned driveway over on the left-hand side from the new fire station over to the parking lot would stay as it was before. So I guess if you got any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. I don't know, one question was brought up was about that property line. And I know ADR was working on that, and I think there still was some, when we met a couple of weeks ago, Doug, there was still some confusion on where that line exactly is. So I think they were trying to figure that out, but it seemed like the line was closer to that existing driveway. But again, Smart Surveying was going to try to work that whole issue out.
Our conversations we've had with ADR is they want to wait to see if the board has interest on going out to Evans, where you don't even need to do that then, and not spending money on it until this discussion and all. So.
The original drawings didn't have that line right. They're working off of that, so I think they were going to pull from the pen again and redo it, but as you say, depending on the layout.
Mark and I talked, what day was it? Friday?
Right, correct.
And I simply point blank asked, if you don't mind, I point blank asked, of these two, which one did you think was the better option? And you pointed to a word called future that is not a, you thought this one right here, can you?
Yeah,
okay,
yes.
That was the better of the two, because everything is basically done in one project.
Yeah,
right?
and what they're referencing there, Brian, is the conversation from the meeting on Monday. We had two layout designs. We had a layout with the road going straight across and the road with the layout coming more curvature. On your map, you indicate on that future right turn only onto Evans Boulevard. You indicate a future concrete in the median in the future. And our two board members expressed, along with our superintendent, we wanted everything done permanent. We didn't want to rely on the future. We didn't want to rely on any part of us not being involved in that decision-making process as a group sitting here tonight.
Correct.
You came back with then, Mike, as Mike is talking about now, this new design where you've now made permanent the concrete, and it indicates here on the map, concrete island 4 foot wide that's permanent structure inside of there. I think, is that Mike, what you're,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So now that is completely and totally permanently affixed. So again, to change it would mean you would have to excavate and dig all that concrete out, which is
Correct.
a lot of waste of money and time for folks, so that we have a right turn on.
And another comment that, so to speak, rang my bell was Mr. Mayor, you had said something about that could become a city street. So can you elaborate on the advantages of that?
Well, I don't know, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'll just talk about that a little bit. You know, we were considering that a little bit, and then when I go back and I consider what the requirements are to build a city street, you know, if we were going to build a street, we want to build a street to the same standard as any developer would have to. That is, you know, in this case, it would be 50 foot of right-of-way, which is excessive. It would be other items as curb and gutter, detailed storm sewer, a lot of other costs that may not be necessary here. So our thought was making it a dedicated city street is probably not the best idea. Rather make it as part of an easement and then just maintain it that way.
Well, and we'd have a little more control over it. From a more of a private type road. I mean, you know, as a city street, you've kind of got to open it up to all residents for travel and things like that, and that may be a time you don't desire that. I don't know, but you know, really that's kind of a thing. So, you know, it was an idea. We talked it over quite a bit, and I think Brian's kind of explained that. So it probably works a little better like this.
There's no reason if sometime in the future you wish to make it a city street, it could be dedicated, it could be passed by council and dedicated later on. I don't really see the true advantage right now, though.
On this map too, we talk about pedestrian flow a little bit, and something we have to look at is beyond really the high school scope a little bit, because we talked about North Newark Little League. So they borrow your parking lot, they walk across the street there, and we'd like to have ways to guide them through the crosswalk near the roundabout. As delineated now by the green, that's kind of a path to there, which we prefer they not cross Sharon Valley at that point. So is a potential. I talked with the foundation, and you know, maybe one day they put a fence up around there to guide. The fence could guide pedestrian flow and guide it more to the east here a little bit and go down into the normal patterns that way, which also could provide up to your fields too. People park and get up to the fields for the middle school. Well, of course there'll be a fence there, I guess, but they'd be on the inside of that. So it just makes it a little pedestrian friendly. We think the whole area, you know, it just in the past 5 years, Sharon Valley's gotten busier. I mean, it does. And of course, we're thinking out down the road. We know all this land up here to the north side. The foundation's desire to utilize that all for school facilities, which would be just phenomenal. I mean, it'd really be pretty neat down the road there, but that also is increased traffic, and we have to think about how all that flows with it in many ways. So, and all that traffic would be, you know, generally a lot on Sharon Valley. There's always going to be more traffic on Sharon Valley than Evans. Everybody Evans has to be on Sharon Valley and either go east or west, but everybody on Sharon Valley doesn't necessarily have to go on Evans, even when it's continued through. So we're trying to take the curb cut to the road that has less traffic. And also, I think when you merge in traffic, you liked it. Now, don't forget, even a right in, somebody's got to slow down. And so we always think about pulling out onto busy traffic, but there's also pulling in. Somebody's slowing down and somebody isn't paying attention, they run in the back of them. So we know the traffic is much slower here. There's a stacking, but a stacking provides safety for cars to allow in and out because they're much slower. We've learned that with pedestrians in the downtown area. The roundabouts have slowed things down. So, but somebody coming from the west into this roundabout, the roundabout will slow them down a little bit, but Sharon Valley still is a little higher speed traffic will be than Evans ever will be. So.
My concern, if Evans Boulevard was going to stay a dead end going back to the schools forever, this really helps. But it's my thinking, once Evans is extended as far as 21st Street, I really think it's going to be the busier of the two streets. because you're also gonna be having traffic from the campus, as I'm looking at my picture down here about Mike's elbow, coming up and heading toward 21st Street. And all these folks over here in Sharon Glen in that area would be going that way to 21st Street. And I have a fear, once that happens, of our student athletes at that point making left turns into Evans Field. That, it seems to me like the problem we've got over here on Sharon Valley now could well be even worse on or on Evans Boulevard once that's done. Is anybody else seeing what I'm seeing, or am I out left field somewhere?
I do, but I know at one point when we were originally talking about the Evans-Baker connection, the city had talked about potentially putting a traffic light in at the entrance to Liberty and Legend. Is that still a part of that connector? Because I see if there's a traffic light at Liberty and Legend, that will help that. But if there's not, what you're seeing is exactly right. You'll never be able to make a left turn through there.
I think
It really all depends on how the connection is made over to 21st Street, over to Baker Boulevard. Like the mayor was talking about at the last meeting, it appears that whatever roadways are connecting through there are going to be not a straight shot, not a fast route. They're going to be a kind of curvy kind of route to calm the traffic somewhat. So, and I'm sure speed limits will be imposed on that. I'm not sure that it's going to be the handiest way to get through, or the quickest way to get through, but I know what you're saying. Evans is not going to be dead end forever. At some point, it's going to be connected through. At that point, and your question about a traffic signal, it's hard to tell right now. The traffic signals are based on traffic warrants, traffic volume warrants mostly. So to go and install a signal on opening day when that connection's made, it's probably not the going to happen.
Oh,
Probably
it was
not.
my understanding that was
Yeah.
part of what the TIF agreement was when you wanted to make that connection, that was a part of that connector plan was to put a light at Liberty and Legend for school arrival and dismissal times and such.
now one of the thoughts is the road might come up here about where we're talking an access road and veer off across the stream there instead of going on back to the schools.
Did you hear that? I mean, is there a plan for where that road is gonna go? I mean, you guys have like some strategic?
It's hypothetical at this point.
Okay.
It's not exact, but it did kind of hug to the east a little bit. Again, it is foundation ground, it's not our ground,
Yeah.
so.
It's not yours to play with.
Sorta, but it really, Sarah Wallace and the group, they reached out and did a study of where would be the best route for that road that would do the least impedance on that ground to allow the most potential what-if scenarios. I guess that's, and it really the architect/engineer firm that did that, the study firm, I mean, it's kind of saying, I don't know what we're going to do, but if we do it, what's the best way to do it? And they came back with a pretty good study that we spent quite a bit on, but it really had that road hugging a little more to the east instead of just going straight north off Evans. And it did curve, as you mentioned, as Brian mentioned a little bit, kind of like this, with all the Sharon Glen neighborhood to the east there. And it would look a little bit more like joining Baker, probably almost at the entrance of the soccer fields, parking area, I guess I would say. So that way it left everything to the west and north kind of open in an unmapped plan. And then I could see from looking at that, probably secondary roads coming off that then had maybe a secondary road if there was a plan for a couple things, and then there would be parking lot accesses off of that with buildings. So again, there's nothing set in stone, but it seemed to be the best route to go for that road a little bit. And as Brian said, we know to just calm traffic down, you throw curves in a little more. There's calming areas, there's ways when you do bump outs and some things like this, you restrict it at all things that naturally slow people down where you don't have to, enforcement's good until the enforcement leaves and then people just speed up again today. It's very frustrating today, but we want to build roads that are a little more conducive to pushing for slower traffic, so.
Absent of having a plan in stone of what all is going to happen up there, it's really hard to put an estimate on how much traffic's going to be on Evans Boulevard. We just know in the short.
But the plan was.
There will be more, absolutely. There will be more.
Better access to 21st Street, right, for like people living like in the campus area and stuff like that.
Yeah, the main concern is King Road, which is so dangerous, and there's really nothing you can do with King Road in Sharon Valley. It's hilly and curvy. I mean, you can't really remove that stuff, and everyone desires to use that as a back street cut through, and they kind of do the path, not unlike they do with colleges, let the people beat down the, walking paths, and then put the sidewalks in. We're kind of, people are that way. We've worked on money already for a roundabout at Country Club in Sharon Valley, and I think you'll see that on the close horizon, but you still have the King Sharon Valley issue, so an alternate road is better. Obviously, a lot of people cut through Hamilton and on down that way, out on the Mall, which probably is a little more traffic. Again, if you look at the past 10 years of that area, how much it's grown with athletic facilities and et cetera, it really, there's a lot more traffic to it, so we have to try to project ahead. With uncertainties, as Brian said, we're taking the paths that would make the most sense through traffic studies, really, of what we know and what could be. I think you want to think about aesthetics too, a little bit. That's just a beautiful road headed up there with some little arteries coming off to some wonderful sports facilities. I think it could be the cream of the state in many ways, I think. And certainly knowing if the foundation has anything to do with it, they'll certainly facilitate that, I think, in a lot of ways. So they were very accepting of this type of plan and how it would work this way. Not to deviate too much, but 161 going over to Columbus is such a great road because it has limited access. It really doesn't have, we call it not curb cuts, but accesses on and off. The prior one had a whole lot, and that's why it never was a smooth run, but that's how your main roads are to be built, and then you have off secondary roads. Biggest mistakes Newark made was 21st Street. I mean, it just should have been wider and should have had service roads and all those things, but again, there is funding and there's cost for all that. But most of our accidents happen when people are coming on off, and we can isolate the curb cuts to secondary roads or off roads a little bit. It can work a little better. We don't know exactly what Evans is going to do. People will still take Kings. People will still take 21st. They'll take a variety of ways, I'm sure. It isn't going to be the only road at all. But,
My concern, the one, you guys have done a tremendous amount of work, and I appreciate it. I like what you've done and the creativity behind it. The concern that I do have, and for 10 years I was dropping kids off at Legend and Liberty, so I know what it's like to try to turn left into that parking lot. And if there's more traffic coming north, that's just going to make that a little bit crazier. Or south, I'm sorry. More traffic coming south.
Right.
And same with our young folks and moms and dads coming in to watch the football games in the fall, the soccer activity, the track, all those things trying to turn left into either there by the schools or up here. And so I am wondering, and if it would be possible to maybe put some kind of cement Y there at the entrance of off of Sharon Valley, and have that be a right turn in only and a right turn out only, and that would be all. Because I think that would allow people going into Evans to be able to come in there, and it might minimize the number of people that are using it. And also, if somebody wants to come in through this way here, then it will minimize the number of people slowing down and doing that, coming in off of Sharon Valley also. But I also know that means you got to build two things, and I know that's not popular view.
And maintain it too.
Pardon?
And maintain it too.
Yeah.
And I still think you will have people going the long way out.
From a standpoint of safety, I think that would be the best. From a standpoint of cost, I know it's probably not.
It's safer if people do what they're supposed to, but we deal with people all the time that don't.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at your left, your right turn only in your greens. Okay, they're coming out as far as they have to and turning left if they want to go down that way. All right, onto Evans Boulevard. Now, I know they may get arrested if they do that, but, and as far as grassing off, unless you put a very large fence up there, those parents are crossing Sharon Valley to go play ball right next to their car if they possibly can. I mean, I parked there for years, so I understand. My kids play there. So I mean, that's, yeah, so I did that. And so I was illegal. You can cite me after. But what I'm saying is, the intentions are wonderful, you know, and I agree with all of them. My thought is the people are going to do what works best for them sometimes. And so, but I was just thinking, the other thing is I really do not want to lose ingress and egress into the Evans complex off of Sharon Valley through the school district. That's a concern that it's my primary concern, is that I don't want to lose that. But I also want to try to figure out a way maybe we can make it as safe as possible. So, does that, I mean, that's where I'm coming from, just me.
So what I'm hearing is basically what Tom's plan. I showed you at the meeting where you have the going around and around. So it's a matter of money, okay? So if it's the safest way to go, how do we work out the money? And is there foundation money that could help? I don't know. I mean, thinking outside the box. You have so much money, we have so much money.
Well, the roads are about 125,000 each. You know, the agreement as it stands now, we were putting 109,000, you're putting in 12,000. If you have an intentions of 125,000 in, we can talk. But we can't spend taxpayers' dollars on roads that are mainly going to be used by a select people, not public streets. We just can't do that. You know, it's yes, safer or not, I don't think your transportation people will agree with that, having two access roads, but you know, that's still, I think, up there a little bit, but we can't justify spending that kind of money on a secondary road. We just literally can't. So I've got the taxpayers of the city to answer to for that, so it's so having one improved road, sure, and that's fine in some ways. And frankly, from this all started with the fire station, out in this whole area, we put, you know, $1 million in this roundabout for school safety. We put in a fire station for school safety, but $500,000 in a bridge across the creek with school safety, the grant money we got. But we're trying to build an all-safety corridor in a lot of ways. And there's just, you know, as I'm saying, I can't justify the fire department doesn't need two roads. I mean, that's not, you know.
No, I wasn't asking for.
No, I know that.
I was suggesting that there is outside of the box ways to go about maybe raising some money. I don't know what it would be, private funds, foundation money.
One thing we have is Hawks Run.
I just want to say, I mean, you say for school safety, and that's true, but it wasn't, you didn't do these projects just for the school district, you know, and I don't want you to
No, but it's
imply
huge
that
benefit.
you're right, we benefit from it, but so do all the citizens of the city benefit from those improvements. And you say you don't need 2 entrances to the firehouse, but I think what you mean is you don't need 3, because you do need 2, because you need access to our property at some point to bring the fire trucks back in, because apparently you can't get them back in through your one entrance that you have now.
That's an exit.
Yeah, so.
Not an exit, yeah. They go one way.
It's an access to a road. So I get what you're saying, you don't need 3 access points, but you do need 2.
Well, I don't infer we're doing this just for the schools, but I infer if you didn't have 2 schools back there and we didn't have athletic fields, C.H. Evans Athletic, we wouldn't wouldn't have thought as heavy about putting a fire station there, I'm honest. And that's all good. I mean, it turned out to be a wonderful location, but it's because of the concentration of people in one area. OSU Newark has to do with that, COTC has to do with that, all these parts and pieces, but it's what makes it even a better location for fire department in a lot of ways. The medics is what I'm thinking so much about, obviously not fires, but I'm thinking the medics there so much. So the trucks will always leave onto Sharon Valley. They will never go any other way. They're very regimental, very detailed, very dictated. They will head out and not in. And they need to keep that front. You know, some leave at different times. They don't all leave at once. And that's why their access onto Sharon Valley straight out from the station is a strictly departure area. That's it. In the bays, they have red and green lights because they have 90 seconds to be in that truck and rolling. And that lets them know when the doors are up, believe it or not, their hearts get going. It's like, I mean, they do it better than we would, but they're very geared for one flow of traffic. And that's the only way. They will not pull in that way. That's what we designed downtown. And because they're very regimental, because once they have any change to that, then accidents can happen and things can go the wrong way. And because they have to facilitate that. So we need one access in is what we were asking. They already have the access out in some respects that way. So
How are they on that roundabout? Because I'm just thinking that's a fairly decent size.
Oh, fine.
To move, to do the, not to go straight, yes, but to make that 90-degree turns, no trouble for them?
no, it's all designed for that because we take that all into consideration. When we spec roundabouts, whether they're stationed there or not, you're going to have fire trucks going through that. I mean, for one thing or another out in that area. So that's what those are really designed for.
I wasn't thinking going straight across because that's fairly simple. I'm thinking with that 90-degree turn, would be a little sharper.
Right. They travel that way now. I mean, after we put poles out
You
there.
mean on the new driveway?
Yeah, if they're coming in on Evans
Yeah.
Boulevard,
Yeah.
they're gonna hit that roundabout to go to,
North.
If it's up there off of Baker or something, there's an injury at a ball field. or
Right.
At the school, they're gonna have to, do what your GPS would say, take the third exit off of the.
They'll do about 3/4 of that roundabout, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Around this way, sure. It's all designed for that. All the specs of the radius, and they do that for school buses and fire trucks. And honestly, talking to Nick the other day, really, school buses have a little more challenging navigation than fire trucks. Fire trucks are a little bit more made to be a little more maneuverable in some ways. I think it's probably the rear tires on the school buses, how they set in and how it swings that tail end around, that we really spec that into that, knowing, I mean, it's just general spec anyways, but knowing that will be heavily traveled, so.
So I think what I heard at our meeting last week, if, the board needs to make a decision. If you're not interested in Evans Road, tell you.
Yep.
And we'll move on to the other, and I think that's probably where the point is right now.
My one fifth is, I'm sort of with Tim, if we could do something in both places, even at additional cost to us, obviously, I'd be interested in pursuing it, but I don't think I'm interested in the only entrance and exit being off Evans Boulevard, looking toward the future. I may leave 20%, but it's not 20%.
Along those lines, how much would it cost us?
Well,
This
for us, we wouldn't have to do concrete if we wanted to keep that for us. That would be pavement and be in that 70 to 95 range.
Yeah, I guess, so,
If we
just
were-
clarify, Tom, so I hear what you're saying, because it's kind of hard to hear back here.
The green part.
Just to, when we were planning, Mark, when we were planning on doing the road a year ago, we held off.
Yes.
We had estimates of 70 to what, 90?
70 to $100,000 to redo this section here in asphalt. Now, if
Asphalt.
you're saying you want to keep this and do this across, then I would still suggest, and this is only me, and I think I can get supporters, I would still suggest that we make this concrete because of the vehicle entrance in to through here.
They don't need that for fire trucks, though. They need.
That was just for our own
Their
use.
fire trucks would be Evans, we would have.
No, but what I
They
think,
could use whichever.
well,
That's right.
this,
Yeah,
I
okay.
think what we were looking at a year ago is making the first, how many feet concrete?
Concrete, yes.
How many feet? 20
20
feet?
feet.
First 20 feet concrete and then asphalting back. So you're in the neighborhood of $100,000 that we have looked at replacing that, had we not been approached by the city. So when you look at saying what would it cost us?
113 to 125 of that and the portion of that. So that won't go away.
I'm just concerned about our kids making left turns on Evans
Yeah.
Boulevard.
I mean, we had planned to do the project, and we just held off.
Well, we can't close this without getting an easement ourselves from Evans Foundation to use this. We can't close this without getting an easement from Evans ourselves. We would have to have Evans' permission to use this as our driveway, just like.
For the city purposes, so you don't hold their project up. You would need to say, go ahead and do the road if you can get that easement with it. We would sign the Evans on. Yes.
So I guess I would like Tommy and Mike, I think this portion, eventually, progress is coming and it's gonna come. You can't change that. But I also like the idea of still having this access road here, so I think if we could do those, I would be opposed.
We still need a survey on this.
Well, if we need a survey, I mean, yeah, but. So could we do a survey? I mean, I don't.
That will be on us.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Brian.
One thing I'd like to say is if you're gonna keep that, if you wanna keep that existing driveway, then this configuration is not gonna work out because you're gonna have somebody coming in, say somebody comes in off of Evans, somebody coming north on the existing roadway. Oh man, that's a mess right there then. So there'd have to be some additional construction to line things up. You're probably gonna lose some more parking spaces and it would probably be a stop sign situation at one or the other of those entrances. Maybe a three-way stop or a two-way stop, actually. See what I'm saying? See the conflict of two people coming into the same point?
Yep.
But would that be hard to do, to put a stop sign?
My only other concern over and above Brian's is people leaving. Now you're putting someone coming from north to south into a mix where they might go straight, they might turn to go out to Evans. Let's be honest, people don't pay attention to signs. So you could put you must exit onto Evans Boulevard, or you must exit onto Sharon Valley, but people don't pay attention to that. Especially kids, just be honest. Parents leaving a sporting event, they've been out all day. I can tell you with the son that plays travel baseball, we're not the most attentive people, we just want to get out of there. I'm concerned about accidents also coming from north to south into that mix that Brian talked about. Stop signs coming across and up, then you got to deal with the people coming south as well. We'll have to process that to see how, with a gaggle of people leaving, how we just don't have gridlock at some point.
Well, the only thing we don't want to be concerned, stop signs can stack traffic back too. If you're a little careful about that. If Sharon Valley's an in at all, they would stack back out onto Sharon Valley possibly. I mean, it's the uniqueness of athletics and school traffic. And you know it, we all know it. It comes all at once and then it's nothing for hours and then it comes all at once and it creates some interesting, I think the roundabout's done a great job with that intersection because even a traffic light wouldn't have handled the traffic the way The roundabout handled it much better than a traffic light would have, but it didn't warrant a traffic light because it was only certain times of the day. But it's the same here, you've got unique traffic where you have a bunch at once. And I just, I hesitate, stop signs that could slow all that down and back it up, but it's a maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be for me, Sharon Valley, if it's one or the other.
So you're back to the original plan.
Yeah, we need a survey to see where that property line
I like that idea. I thought we may be able to, that we both get what we wanted, or part of what we wanted, and by having the two roads, we both can kind of get both. I like the idea.
Well, my main, again, I just go back to my main concern about students. I know they're going it now. The traffic is going to increase regardless. Okay? And right now, I'm concerned about students. Paul Allen, Sharon Valley Road, crossing traffic there. I know this is, you do have a turn lane here. I don't know. I'm with Warren. I like this idea better. I like the crossover better. Did you vote on it?
We could. Or we can table and look at it some more. Is there, you guys need answers, don't you?
Well, we're gonna get there pretty soon. We're putting brick on the front of the fire station. We really need to know that direction a little bit for contractors. They get very, very busy here pretty soon.
We also have sports. Access to it.
We have, is there like, I know we're gonna have a meal very soon. That's true. So, I'm guessing for the next week. Yeah. Hey, Brian?
Yeah.
With your years of experience and expertise and all of those things.
Yes, sir.
Can you see a way, or can you look to see if there's a way, where we can have some activity coming onto Evans Boulevard, but also not lose egress and ingress off of Sharon Valley? Is there a way that you could see to make that work? And give us about a week? Because right now, I think it's 3-2, and we go back to the very original drawings, and that doesn't bother me because that's one of my votes. But the other side of me says I want to do what's best for you guys. I also want to do what's best, I think, for the students.
We're probably gonna prefer one road over two.
Okay.
It doesn't matter which road it is, to be honest with you. So that's probably where we're gonna go back, because it's safer. And we have an obligation because we're laying the roads out. That's why we have to take traffic lights down some places. If an intersection doesn't include a traffic light, we have a liability as the city to have a light there. Because if someone stops and somebody rear ends them and there isn't a warrant for a traffic light at the intersection, we can be sued, believe it or not. So it's the same here. We really can't offer a solution that's against best practices in engineering and traffic studies, and that's the only thing we'll be looking at a little bit. So we don't want to create it a little more complicated. But there is no legislation in front of you tonight other than the original. If the city is allowed to still use that for access to our station as we do construction and, move equipment in, we can hold off probably to your next meeting and have it all come out at that point. If you want to chew on it a little bit, or we'll chew on it and see if there's any that way. I think it's probably all right.
What do you need beyond access for the transformer?
I'm sorry.
What do you need beyond access for the transformer?
No, access just to get back into our property on the backside as they're building the construction. They're laying the brick on the building right now, and it's all a big mud pit around there, and once they do that, they can start leveling it out and we have access. But they just need to get on the backside here for deliveries and some things like that as it grows. The stub coming out through the trees or the path now, that's going to be what it is. I mean, that's something, we'll do that irregardless. We can take the agreement and kind of split it up. If you think about that, was all-inclusive agreement. It was about constructing or improving a road. It was about maintenance of a road, and then it was also about access or easement use. So if we took that pieces, this one piece in the back here, Robertson Construction can still pour that along with the concrete apron on the back of the station. And we'll still have that stub coming out to your parking lot. That remains as is. That'll keep them rolling. And as long as they'll need access just to get to that and some things like that as they build that. So as long as we can still use the green piece for that at this time to work out then we'll decide, is the green the only way? Is Evans the only way? Is we'll all chew on it and decide on it. So which way does it come off of that stub, I guess, is what we're really talking
So
about
are you
here.
saying use this, or are you talking about using this?
That's what I'm talking about using the green, because we don't have a right on that green. That's your property. We don't technically have a right on that.
Well,
We don't imprint paper, that's what that
no, we
agreement was
don't have
about.
access on paper. We
right.
we recently given permission to use that
Right.
for a transformer in a semi.
Right,
But you're
right.
saying you need it beyond that?
Yeah, for deliveries. We will soon, yes.
It's more to kind of make Robertson comfortable, you know what I'm saying? We all get along pretty good in agreement, but when you have contractors doing
To
things.
my knowledge, they haven't approached us with more access beyond the transformer and the semi to get the transformer in there.
Yeah, and that was an immediate thing that needed to happen last week.
So I'm assuming if they have more access, they will approach us about that.
Correct. But the time's coming, as the mayor was saying, there's time's coming where as they're finishing the back of the building and getting ready to move around and build that stub of the driveway over towards the parking lot, they're gonna need to get back there.
If you kind of think about it, there's construction easements and there's permanent easements. And construction is just added space to be able to work around. As they would frame that, I call that the stub road in the back there, they have to frame it clear up to your parking lot, so they'll have to work off the edge of that parking lot to get that framed in. It'd be real nice to get that done before sports, sure.
I have no problems with using it for construction as long as it's
Sure.
navigable, I guess would be the word for
Right.
people coming and
Right.
going there.
But we need that communication from the city and or Robertson of when they need that and what their intent is, because you're right, we don't have an easement agreement, including we don't have a
Right.
construction easement agreement. Wait, do you want me to make a motion on this, or what do you want?
Table this. I mean, the easement.
Because they're saying they can't do
They're
a two-point access.
What you asked them to do, they said they're
They said
either
they
one
can't
road
do
or.
it, they said one road.
Well, but I thought they said they would be willing to.
No, they didn't, they said they would.
Okay, let me ask this. Just, kind of hold this straight. So, this portion, the green portion, is ours to do what we want. Is that true? So, if we say, okay, we agree to the part that goes to Evans. This, we want to keep open. That's our choice, to keep that open.
But they don't want us to, because it's a safety concern.
Because there'll be an intersection problem right here. That's true, but we just have to figure out a way to make the intersection work.
They said they can't endorse an intersection there.
Yeah.
They said they can't endorse an
If I've got
intersection
you
that meets.
right, you can't endorse both of those roads having ingress and egress, correct?
They can't endorse an intersection right here.
Well, I think the cost factor is another piece that can't be forgotten. I don't think you're gonna get the foundation to donate money to build a road. I'm gonna tell you that, that's kind of off. Foundations don't usually like to build roads. They like to build buildings, they like to build things, and I just don't think that's gonna happen, and we don't have the money to do that, honestly. So that's part of it, I would say. So, and it's kind of overkill a little bit. So, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not 100% on that, I think, but that's why if we kind of had a construction easement on the green piece even a verbal one from you guys, just for access during that, and then we'll work this out in the next couple weeks and come to a final conclusion. I mean, even with the old way, I think what happened was, this is, it's a standalone construction project. We had Robertson, we had ADR, we didn't have our engineering department in it. And so they designed the whole thing, and then really Nick is in Brian's department of traffic engineering. He come in and goes, hey, you know what would be nice? This would work better and be safer according to standards. So that's how this kind of comes up. And that's why it's kind of a 180 a little bit in the middle of the project, to be honest with you. But I'm kind of a big one. If we can do it better, and that's, everybody's opinion. I respect that. I have no problem with that. But I just mean, if we think we can do something better, we ought to talk about it. That's all it is. And, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I mean, you have the rights on your own property. That's fine. And we appreciate the potential access. So I just want to vent it out and do whatever we all agree on.
If we close that and we give up that entrance off of Sharon Valley,
Right.
then who do we appeal to if we decide we need to open it up again because the way it is isn't working? How does that work? Then there's more traffic than we thought would be coming on Evans Boulevard, and that creation that we came up with doesn't necessarily work so well. How does that happen? Because we've strapped ourselves in. We don't have a say to a road at that point, correct? We can't just open up a curb because we didn't want to. Does that make sense?
I mean, anything can be put in an agreement. It's a fail-safe, to be honest with you. So, we're all pretty hard to look into the future glass. You know what I'm saying? I get that. I think we're open to whatever is good, safe practices.
If we put a bunch of blocks or something up against that road, then we lose the ability to be able to do egress and ingress on our land. And we'd have to go through somebody else's property to do that.
Unless that become your property over here.
What's that?
Unless off Evans would become your property also. I don't know if that helps solve that or not. I mean, you'll flip there for access, it'd still be your property. I'm willing to talk with Sarah and walk with the foundation and all that. We work together on a lot of things, and if that's, I get that, it limits you're talking about the land ownership.
Yeah.
Well, if that was.
We have acres and acres of very little frontage.
Sure, but if that did create that, and I don't even know north of that, Sarah might be open to that, and I'm happy to talk for that. I understand, I don't want to cut you off for your access, that's absolutely.
What did we need to access first of all, so we were talking about maybe making a motion to grant the access so they can continue on with the building. Is that right or no?
That's not the motion I was.
No.
I'm lost.
I was gonna make the motion that we don't do this, and we stick to discussing the original easement and get that we need a site survey.
And then that would effectively take everything else off the table.
But I was going for that because they said that they couldn't endorse putting any type of intersection right here with two roads, and that they only want one. So if there's only one, I think we're better to have one shared for our needs.
I just think I was thinking that we could discuss. I was thinking they need access to get back. They want to stop that.
Well, what they've been doing currently is Robertson call us when they have the meetings. What they've been doing is, as Robertson has a specific need to use that spot that they fenced off for us, they've been contacting Doug to explain what they needed, and he's been granting access. I don't know.
I'm thinking just
let it go. And then I would think that we could discuss this.
But do we still need a want a site survey from them?
Not well, like the mayor said, it could be a month, if they could just continue to have access.
Construction access.
Is that right, Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
Sir?
I'm sorry.
You were saying that as long as you have access for right now, that's
Yes,
fine, and
that gives us, yeah.
we can talk about the rest
Good.
at our next meeting.
I mean, we'll go back and show, we'll never talk with you, chew on it, we'll chew on it, one of those things, you know, the next couple weeks here.
Okay.
If you got any different things, you know, Mark, throw it out to us, or you guys can, and, you know, we'll try to work at the best solution all the way around, so I appreciate the time, and, you know,
Anything.
To me, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
As long as our folks can get in and out too.
As long as they're communicating when, so we know that there's some specific thing as far as track and soccer practice and stuff.
And there's,
I think Robertson
The
probably
only-
that anyway.
the only motion, I believe, would be that we grant construction easement to you all, to proceed with the work as you need.
that'd be great. Thank you.
It'd be nice to get a heads up.
Kind of a little piece of that
Yeah.
whole contract that you got paid.
I know Mark sent you dates for like track meets and those kind of things.
Yep.
so maybe
Those dates were sent
just
to
kind of-
Robertson. Those dates
So
were sent to the
Christian can kind of plan, some of those specific dates and be a little more crowded than others.
We meet with them every Wednesday morning too,
Okay.
and city and architects and Christian's team and everybody,
Okay.
so we'll convey all that, make sure we're trying to stay on track with that.
They understand that they're gonna email the board and possibly Doug Butte as well, or whoever they had to. There was a list of people they were gonna email 12 to 24 hours before they did anything, as far as construction that would impact the area. They're on board with that.
So motions is board, New York City Schools. grants-
Construction easement.
Grants a construction easement. In the city of Newark. In the land evidence complex. That, I do.
You move.
No? I made it, it's a second.
I'll second. Whoever, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same silence. All right. Motion moves.
And we'll continue to, Mr. Mayor, we'll continue to talk on this. And
Yes,
like I
absolutely.
said,
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so board discussion.
You know, I had three things. Cassidy is already gone. I was going to congratulate her again. I think that's great.
That's tremendous.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Was going to congratulate Scott again.
Yeah.
He's gone. And I was going to tell you, Doug, I had a secretary once. We had a sign on their desk that said, "Do you want to talk to the person in charge? Or do you want to talk to the person who really knows what's going on around here?" So you should keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gloria could have that same one on her
That's
desk.
right. Hope the Wild girls, which workers, is that
Yeah.
Friday? Friday there?
And just-
That's it?
Just one thing, two. Thanks to the city for being here and all the
Thank
work
you.
you're doing. And then, also thanks to all the teachers. It caught my attention here, we were approving these wonderful, field trips out of, Chicago and France and Peru. And the amount of organization and how much time these teachers and advisors put in, it's remarkable. And then the responsibility of traveling with these kids, that's huge. And I just want to say thanks to those teachers and advisors, okay? So I'm sure they're watching this, but if you could pass that on to them.
Okay. Millions of viewers.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, that's it.
Warren congratulated Scott. I want to thank Scott. Scott puts in a lot of hours doing a lot of things for our students. And we're just lucky to have somebody like that over there. And Cassidy, I mean, full scholarship, wow. Gotta admire that. Congrats to our 3 NDA graduates. Great time in their life. Our music folks had OMEAs, if I got the letters right.
OMEA, yeah.
The other day. A lot of superiors and outstandings. You know, good job on their part. Our sports teams. You know, the boys won 22 games.
Yeah. Amazing.
You could have made a lot of money betting on that before the season. I don't think anybody expected them to have that kind of success. And good luck to the girls, obviously. Picked up my tickets on the way over here. So everybody get to St. John. Yeah, it's at St. John Arena.
It is.
The donations, it's amazing how many donations we seem to get month after month. And the next thing that I've got, it's sort of interesting, the folks from the city are here when I mention this. It's also a sign that I don't have a life. The other evening, I noticed my community capitalism book sitting on my shelf. And I didn't have anything to do that evening, and I reread it.
Might read it.
Do you have your copy?
And as I read it, I kept thinking, you know, this book came into town to work on things during the recession and how to work on a downtime. But as I kept reading all the different ideas, I kept thinking, boy, there's ideas here that could be taken during good times and just run with the good times we have. So I want to encourage all the movers and shakers in the town, get their community capitalism book back out, reread that, revisit it, and take a look at some of the things that are there that would still be applicable today. It amazed me. There you go. Some evening when you don't have a life. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I think everybody in town now knows we've got a superintendent search to do. I want to thank all the various people. I don't know how many people I've had call, email, stop me, giving me their ideas, their suggestions. I'm sure the other 4 folks have had the same thing. But the only thing on a downside is most of those ideas, what I hear from person A, I hear different from person B, and person C has still another idea. But you know, I enjoy hearing all the ideas. I take it, try to work with it. And the interesting thing is where the community members are saying so many different things, when we've met, the 5 of us, to discuss it, we're also saying various things. And I just want people to know that I think if there's one thing this board can do well, it's work with things where we have a variety of opinions among us. You know, we've worked together forever. I think between the 5 of us, we've got 40 years of experience on the board. And I think Warren at 4 years is the rookie. So we've worked together a lot. We've worked our way through, we've worked our way through a lot of different decisions. And I think as we work through this, we'll build on the points we're in agreement in, then we'll work from there, and I feel very confident we'll do what's right for the Newark City Schools and the people of Newark. So keep feeding ideas.
Yes, 2 things. I want to congratulate Cassidy and Scott for their accomplishments. That's very awesome to hear what they've done for the year. And the second one is that I want to thank also the donors for the monetary donations. They're always welcome.
Okay, everyone's already said everything I was going to say. I know it's not fair, but we say it all the time. We know we have wonderful students. We know we have wonderful parents, community members, the staff members, but to have outside groups recognize our students as staff members is just outstanding and wonderful, and what a great feeling. It's nice when everyone else sees what we see. And so congratulations again to Cassidy and Scott, and congrats to all the retirees. I am beyond super jealous.
Yeah, as Bev mentioned, it's great to see somebody looking at our district different than what we do. Look at our district, different lens that recognizes our students and our staff members, because we've got a lot of tremendous ones here. You know, I think the biggest compliment I heard the other night, I was talking to some folks from Pickerington Central Friday night at our girls' game, and they looked across the way and said, man, I wish our community was like that. I think we probably had 3/4 of the gym packed with our colors, and they were there early. They were there early. We all were there early as the Pickerington folks got there kind of late, and the excitement that we had. And we turned around the next day and supported our boys, you know, the next night down at ODU. So it was just, it's great to be part of that. And I'll point out Tom Bowman over here, our high school principal. We talked during the semifinal game where we had this big student section that was fairly empty. And so Tom and the group there organized 2 buses, and Tom took care of their tickets, the student tickets for them. And we ended up getting almost 80 students there on those 2 buses. So, you know, because that is a challenge for some of our folks. And so I appreciate the folks that drove the buses there, the staff members who rode the bus there. I was at the high school day with Tom, and a staff member said, hey, yeah, I'll take care of, you know, help you this week to make sure that our students get to be part of that, because it's special. And so it's just a great thing to see. We are going to release 2 hours early on Friday because we have that 6 o'clock game, and Columbus can be difficult down there. And wrestling's at the shot at the same time. So it's going to be a mess down there. And so we want to make sure our folks have a chance to support our girls. Also like to bring up with the virus that's going around. You know, I get calls and emails, and it's not as bad as the emails I get because I always come back and say, well, what part of our staff is out? And so today I did a little study that said we're looking at over 600 teachers, aides, support staff, that includes secretarial. I looked at the last 3 days on everybody that's ill, so Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We had 17 and a half staff members out today. That's less than 3%. We don't have a staff issue with the flu. And we had some people that were out that said ill, but they turned their form in January 22nd. Unless they're really good at knowing they're going to get the flu on March 9th. You know, I didn't count those. And so our staff members are here. I had our folks do for our students for the 2nd time this year. The last 2 weeks we've averaged 91% attendance, which is really good this time of year. It's awesome, really that way. So all we can do through this is continue to talk to our folks about, I know that an email I got from a staff member, and I really appreciated this, talking about taking her class in to wash their hands frequently during the day. And I thought that was just great, so keep our people healthy. But I did see that 3 cases popped up in Ohio today. Saw the statement from the governor, and so next Tuesday we will be on election day. We will be doing a professional development day with our staff and no students at school. And so I see some of the teachers back there. I don't want any emails tonight on what we're doing. The principals will know on Wednesday at our administrative team meeting. And our board is very supportive of these type of things. But we also want to mention that these kind of things put families at a difficult situation. And so that day will be spent very very much planning that entire day on what if we had to close for a long period of time. We've only missed one day, and so it's what if we got a blizzard today and we were out the next 2 weeks or the next week, those type of things. We would make those days up, at the end of the year. But just want to make sure that we're planning. We're a district that, we don't have that opportunity to go. Not all of our children have access to technology and the hardware to do that at home. So what that looks like from I see elementary, middle, and high school folks back there, and what that looks at different levels. We're going to work with our teachers to make sure that we have a plan, and what that plan is, our principals will share out, and that. But I did want to know, we're 3 hours into that decision, not quite 3 hours, 2 hours into that decision, I think. And so I want to make sure everybody knows that, and we'll continue to monitor our staff, absences and our student absences. But we did that a month ago, and we were at 90% with our students, and so pretty healthy group right now. We want to keep it that way. So if you're sick, please do not come to school.
Take the day.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Other than that, school year's moving along really well. It's just a great time to be a cat. Great things going on.
One other thing we're talking about, and this is big too, is that if we have to be out for a while, we're trying to figure out how we may get food to our students.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of students who perhaps depend upon the 2 meals they get from us as the best meals of their day. So trying to figure out how to do that too. There's a lot of logistics to work out through those things, but just know the folks that are behind the scenes are trying to work those things out in case that should happen. The NDA grads, that's an awesome thing. They worked hard and they're going to get their diplomas, and it's exciting for them. This weekend is the play. Emma is the play, modern music, and some older music, so it should be an interesting combination. Also, still some concerts at the younger grades in some of the schools coming up this week, so an opportunity to take care of those. Gabby Stair, Tamia Kendrick, Natasia Thomas, and Ariana Wimbish. The 4 seniors on your girls' basketball team, they have been leaders extraordinaire, and they have done a tremendous job. That's not saying other kids aren't good leaders. It's saying for the girls' basketball team, they've been tremendous. And great young ladies, bright futures for them. But I'm excited for them to be playing for the state finals, and their leadership has paid off. There's some great kids and some really good leaders coming up behind them as well too. So I'm excited. It's a good time to be a basketball cat, and all that. It's a good time to be a Wildcat. Mr. Mayor, Steve, Brian, I thank you guys. You had other places you could be this evening, and I appreciate you coming here very much. And we certainly want to try to work this out for the best for everybody, and you guys and our students as well. So appreciate your time this evening. And with that, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
That was quick.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. That's adjourned. Oh, you want to go forward? I didn't think we needed it.